There's a quiet truth most people don't talk about. Attraction isn't built on doing more, chasing more, or trying harder. In fact, the women who stand out the most are often doing less, but doing it differently. What most people miss is this. Men don't secretly desire perfection, they desire a feeling. And that feeling comes from how a woman carries herself, how she responds, and what she tolerates. The first rule is simple, but powerful. She values herself more than the outcome. When a woman is overly focused on will he like me, or will this work out, she unknowingly gives away her power. But when she shifts to do I like him, everything changes. Her energy becomes grounded, calm, and confident. And that energy is incredibly attractive because it signals she has options, standards, and self-respect. The second rule is emotional control, not suppression, control. Anyone can react. Anyone can get upset, overthink, or chase reassurance. But the woman who pauses, who understands her emotions instead of being ruled by them, that's the woman who feels rare. She doesn't create drama to feel valued. She creates peace. And peace is something people crave more than they admit. The third rule is maintaining a sense of mystery and independence. This doesn't mean playing games or being distant. It means having a full life that doesn't revolve around one person. When a woman has her own passions, her own priorities, and her own rhythm, she becomes intriguing. There's always more to discover. And that sense of discovery keeps attraction alive. The fourth rule is having clear standards and boundaries. Not harsh walls, but quiet confidence in what she will and won't accept. She doesn't need to announce it loudly. It shows in how she responds, what she tolerates, and when she walks away. And here's the truth. People respect what they feel they could lose. Boundaries create that sense of value. The fifth rule is warmth and positive energy. Strength is attractive, yes, but so is softness. A woman who can smile, who can bring lightness into a moment, who can make someone feel comfortable, that's powerful. It's not about being agreeable, it's about being emotionally generous without losing yourself. And finally, consistency. This is where most people fail. They might show confidence one day, insecurity the next. They might set boundaries, then break them. But attraction deepens when a man knows who you are and can trust that it won't suddenly change. Consistency builds emotional safety, and emotional safety builds connection. Now, here's the part most people won't tell you. These rules aren't about changing who you are. They're about removing what isn't serving you. The overthinking, the chasing, the fear of losing someone. Because the moment you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself, everything shifts. And suddenly, you're not competing for attention anymore. You become the one they don't want to lose. There's a subtle but powerful shift that changes everything in dating, and most people never even realize it's available to them. It's the moment a woman stops placing all her focus on the outcome, whether he'll choose her, text her back, commit to her, and instead places that focus back onto herself. Because when your happiness becomes dependent on someone else's decision, you unknowingly give away your sense of control. You start overanalyzing small things. You read into messages. You question your worth based on how someone else shows up. And without realizing it, you begin to shape your behavior around keeping their interest instead of expressing your true self. But the woman who stands out, the one who creates real, lasting attraction, operates from a completely different mindset. She isn't asking, how do I make him like me? She's asking, is this someone who deserves my time, my energy, my attention? That shift might sound small, but it changes your entire energy. When you value yourself more than the outcome, you naturally slow things down. You're not rushing to impress. You're not trying to fill silence with nervous energy. You're comfortable observing, listening, and deciding. And that calm presence communicates something incredibly attractive. It says, I know my worth, and I'm not here to prove it to anyone. What makes this even more powerful is that it removes pressure. When you're not desperate for a specific result, you become more authentic. You laugh more freely. You speak more honestly. You stop filtering every word in fear of saying the wrong thing. And ironically, that authenticity is exactly what draws people in. There's also a deeper layer to this. When you prioritize yourself, you naturally create standards without forcing them. You don't tolerate inconsistent behavior because you don't need validation from someone who isn't showing up properly. You don't chase clarity, you expect it. And if it's not there, you're willing to walk away, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of your self-respect. And here's the truth that many people struggle to accept. When someone feels that you're okay without them, they value you more. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because your energy communicates that being with you is a privilege, not a guarantee. This doesn't mean you become cold or detached. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It simply means you care about yourself just as much, if not more, than you care about the outcome with any one person. Because the reality is, the right person isn't someone you have to convince, chase, or constantly adjust yourself for. The right person recognizes your value without you having to shrink or perform for it. And when you truly understand that, you stop trying to win someone over. You start allowing people to rise to meet you. And if they don't, you don't lose anything, because you never lost yourself in the process. There's a difference between feeling emotions and being controlled by them, and that difference is where attraction is either built or quietly lost. Most people think attraction is about chemistry, looks, or saying the right things. But what truly stands out is emotional steadiness, the ability to feel deeply, yet not react impulsively, to experience uncertainty, but not let it drive your behavior. Because here's what often happens. Someone doesn't reply quickly, and the mind starts racing. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? That anxiety builds, and before you know it, you're sending another message, changing your tone, or trying to regain control of the situation. In that moment, it's not connection driving your actions, it's fear. And fear has a way of pushing people away. But the woman who understands emotional control doesn't rush to react. She pauses. She gives herself space to process what she's feeling before deciding what it means, or if it even means anything at all. She doesn't let a temporary emotion create a permanent action she might regret. That pause is powerful. It shows that her emotions don't dictate her worth or her decisions. It shows that she has an internal sense of stability rather than needing constant external reassurance. And that kind of grounded energy is incredibly attractive because it feels safe, calm, and mature. It's also what prevents unnecessary drama. When someone is overly reactive, small situations become big problems. A delayed reply turns into an argument. A misunderstood comment turns into distance. But emotional control allows space for understanding instead of escalation. It keeps things light where they should be light, and serious only when they truly need to be. And here's something important. Emotional control doesn't mean you ignore your feelings or pretend everything is fine. It means you acknowledge what you feel, but you don't immediately act on it. You give yourself time to ask, is this feeling based on reality, or is it coming from fear, insecurity, or past experiences? That awareness changes everything. Because instead of reacting in a way that seeks validation, you respond in a way that reflects self-respect. You don't chase reassurance, you create clarity. You don't lash out, you communicate calmly. And you don't assume the worst, you allow space for the best to unfold. There's also an element of unpredictability that comes with emotional control, in a good way. When someone knows you won't overreact, won't create unnecessary tension, and won't be easily shaken, they begin to respect you more. They know they're dealing with someone who is emotionally strong, not fragile. And strength, in this sense, isn't loud. It's quiet. It's composed. It's the ability to stay centered even when things feel uncertain. What's fascinating is that emotional control also protects your own peace. You stop riding the emotional highs and lows of someone else's behavior. Your mood isn't dictated by a text, a call, or a moment of attention. You become steady, and that steadiness allows you to think clearly, choose wisely, and act in alignment with who you truly are. And ultimately, that's what creates attraction that lasts. Not intensity, not drama, but a sense of calm that people don't want to lose. There's something incredibly compelling about a woman who has her own world, her own passions, her own priorities, her own rhythm of life that doesn't immediately shift the moment someone new enters it. Because attraction doesn't grow from constant availability. It grows in the space where curiosity lives. And curiosity can only exist when there's something still left to discover. When a woman makes someone the center of her universe too quickly, she unintentionally removes that sense of discovery. Every thought, every plan, every moment begins to revolve around that one person. And while it might come from a genuine place of interest, it can feel overwhelming on the other side. There's no space to wonder, no room to lean in, no opportunity to pursue. But when she maintains her independence, everything feels different. She's not always available, and not because she's playing games, but because her life is already full. She has things that excite her, commitments that matter to her, and a sense of identity that exists completely outside of any relationship. And that independence sends a powerful message. Being with me adds to my life, it doesn't define it. That's what creates intrigue. It makes a man lean in, not out of confusion, but out of genuine interest. He starts to wonder what she's doing, what drives her, what makes her happy beyond him. And that sense of curiosity keeps attraction alive far longer than constant reassurance ever could. There's also an emotional balance that comes with independence. When your entire sense of fulfillment doesn't rely on one person, you approach the connection with more ease. You're not holding on tightly, fearing loss at every small shift. You're able to enjoy the moment for what it is, without constantly trying to secure what it might become. And that ease is magnetic. It creates a dynamic where both people feel free rather than pressured, where connection grows naturally instead of being forced, where time together feels exciting, not expected. Mystery plays a role here too, but it's often misunderstood. Mystery isn't about being secretive or distant. It's about not revealing everything all at once. It's about allowing layers of your personality, your experiences, and your thoughts to unfold over time. When everything is shared too quickly, there's no build-up, no anticipation. But when there's a gradual unfolding, each interaction feels like a step deeper into something meaningful. It also shows emotional intelligence. You're not rushing intimacy. You're allowing it to develop at a pace where both people can genuinely appreciate it. And that pacing creates a stronger, more lasting connection because it's built on real understanding, not just immediate intensity. Independence also protects your standards. When your life is full and fulfilling on its own, you're less likely to accept behavior that disrupts your peace. You don't cling to someone who isn't showing up properly because you already have a life you enjoy. You don't settle for less because you don't feel a void that needs to be filled. And that's the paradox. When you don't need someone to complete your life, you become far more attractive to have in theirs. Because now, being with you feels like a choice, not a dependency. And people value what feels freely given, not what feels required. There's a quiet power in knowing what you will and won't accept, and more importantly, living in alignment with that without needing to announce it to the world. A lot of people believe boundaries have to be loud to be effective. They think they need to make speeches, set strict rules, or constantly remind someone how they expect to be treated. But the most respected boundaries are often the ones that are felt, not forced. Because real standards don't come from what you say, they come from what you consistently allow. When a woman has clear standards, it shows in the smallest moments. It shows in how she responds to inconsistency. It shows in how she handles disrespect, even in subtle forms. It shows in what she tolerates once and what she never tolerates twice. And here's the key. She doesn't over-explain herself. She doesn't feel the need to justify why something doesn't sit right with her. She trusts her instincts enough to act on them. If something feels off, she addresses it calmly or simply steps back. And that quiet certainty sends a powerful message. I respect myself enough not to negotiate my values. What makes this so attractive is that it creates clarity. There's no confusion about where she stands, no guessing about what she will accept just to keep someone around. And that clarity builds respect because people naturally take you as seriously as you take yourself. On the other hand, when boundaries are unclear or inconsistent, it creates mixed signals. One day something is okay, the next day it's not. One moment she tolerates behavior that bothers her, the next she reacts emotionally to it. And that inconsistency doesn't just confuse the other person, it weakens her position. Because if someone feels there are no real consequences to crossing a line, they're more likely to cross it again. But when boundaries are steady and upheld without drama, something shifts. There's a sense of structure in the connection. A sense that this is someone who won't bend just to avoid losing you. And ironically, that's what makes people less likely to risk losing her in the first place. It's also important to understand that boundaries aren't about controlling someone else's behavior. They're about controlling your response to it. You can't force someone to act a certain way, but you can decide what you will do if they don't meet your standards. You can choose to disengage, to pull back your energy, or to walk away entirely. And that choice is where your real power lies. There's also a level of self-worth behind strong boundaries. When you truly believe your time, energy, and emotional investment are valuable, you stop giving them freely to people who don't reciprocate. You become more selective, more intentional, not closed off, but discerning. And that discernment changes the entire dynamic. Now, it's not about holding on to someone at any cost. It's about allowing the right people to stay and letting the wrong ones remove themselves. Because at the end of the day, boundaries aren't walls that push people away. They're filters that reveal who truly belongs in your life. There's a common misconception that strength alone is what creates attraction, that being independent, confident, and unshaken is enough. And while those qualities matter, they're only one side of the equation. What truly draws someone in and keeps them there is the balance between strength and warmth. Because no matter how confident someone is, they still crave a space where they can feel good, feel appreciated, and feel at ease. A woman who carries positive energy doesn't mean she's always cheerful or pretending everything is perfect. It means she brings a sense of lightness into interactions. There's an ease in the way she communicates, a natural ability to make moments feel enjoyable rather than heavy or pressured. And that kind of energy is rare. In a world where many interactions are filled with overthinking, testing, or subtle tension, someone who can simply be present, engaged, and uplifting stands out immediately. She's not trying to impress, she's expressing. She's not calculating every move, she's allowing the moment to unfold. That authenticity creates comfort. It makes a man feel like he doesn't have to constantly prove himself or walk on eggshells. He can relax, open up, and be more of who he actually is. And when someone associates you with that feeling of ease, they naturally want more of your presence in their life. Warmth also shows in appreciation. Not excessive praise or validation, but genuine acknowledgement. When she notices effort, when she expresses gratitude in a simple, sincere way, it reinforces positive behavior without needing to demand it. It creates a dynamic where both people feel seen rather than evaluated. And that's powerful, because people are drawn to where they feel valued. At the same time, warmth doesn't mean overgiving or losing yourself. This is where many people get it wrong. They think being kind means always being available, always accommodating, always putting the other person first. But true warmth is grounded in self-respect. She gives from a full place, not from a place of seeking approval. So when she's present, she's genuinely present. When she's kind, it's because she chooses to be, not because she fears losing someone if she isn't. That distinction is everything, because it keeps her energy authentic rather than forced. There's also an emotional intelligence behind positive energy. She knows when to bring lightness into a situation and when to hold space for something deeper. She doesn't avoid serious conversations, but she doesn't create heaviness where it isn't needed either. That balance makes interactions feel natural instead of exhausting. And over time, this kind of energy becomes associated with emotional safety. Not just in the sense of avoiding conflict, but in the sense of feeling accepted, understood, and at ease. It becomes a place someone wants to return to, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. Because at the end of the day, people don't just remember what you said or did, they remember how they felt around you. And when someone consistently feels good in your presence, calm, appreciated, and uplifted, that connection becomes incredibly hard to replace. There's something deeply reassuring about knowing where you stand with someone. No guessing, no second guessing, no trying to decode mixed signals, just a clear, steady sense of who they are and how they show up. And that's exactly what consistency creates. A lot of people focus on making a strong first impression. They bring their best energy in the beginning, attentive, confident, engaging, But over time, that energy starts to fluctuate. One day they're fully present, the next they're distant. One moment they have strong boundaries, the next they let things slide. And that inconsistency slowly erodes trust, even if the initial attraction was strong. Because attraction might spark interest, but consistency is what sustains it. When a woman is consistent, it doesn't mean she's predictable in a boring way. It means her values, her energy, and her behavior align over time. If she communicates openly in the beginning, she continues to do so. If she sets a boundary, she maintains it. If she shows warmth and respect, it doesn't disappear the moment things become uncertain. That reliability builds something much deeper than excitement. It builds emotional security. And emotional security is often underestimated. People think they want intensity, butterflies, unpredictability, but what they truly stay for is the person who makes them feel grounded. The person whose presence feels steady, not chaotic. Consistency also reflects self-respect. Because when your actions match your words, it shows that you take yourself seriously. You're not easily swayed by temporary emotions, external pressure, or fear of losing someone. You act in alignment with who you are, not just how you feel in a particular moment. And that alignment is powerful. It removes confusion from the connection. The other person doesn't have to constantly adjust or question what's happening. They know what to expect from you, not because you've told them, but because you've shown them repeatedly. At the same time, consistency protects you from falling into unhealthy patterns. When you're grounded in your behavior, you're less likely to chase when someone pulls away, less likely to overgive when it's not being reciprocated, less likely to compromise your standards just to keep things going. You become stable even when the situation isn't. And that stability shifts the dynamic. Instead of reacting to every change in the other person's behavior, you remain centered. You observe, you assess, and you respond intentionally. That kind of presence naturally commands respect because it shows emotional maturity and control. There's also a level of trust that grows over time with consistency. Not just trust in you, but trust in the connection itself. When someone sees that your behavior doesn't drastically change under pressure, they feel safer investing in you emotionally because they're not worried that everything will suddenly shift. And ultimately, that's what allows something real to develop. Not quick highs and lows, not temporary excitement, but a connection that feels solid, dependable, and genuine. Because in the end, it's not the moments of intensity that define a relationship. It's the patterns that repeat over time. And when those patterns are steady, respectful, and aligned, that's when attraction turns into something lasting. At the end of all of this, what really matters isn't memorizing rules or trying to perform a certain way. It's understanding the deeper pattern behind everything you've just heard. Every one of these principles points back to the same core idea. The way you show up in your own life determines how others show up for you. When you value yourself more than the outcome, you stop chasing and start choosing. When you have emotional control, you respond with clarity instead of reacting from fear. When you maintain your independence, you create space for real curiosity and connection. When you hold your boundaries, you teach people how to treat you without saying a word. When you bring warmth and positive energy, you become someone people feel good being around. And when you stay consistent, you build trust that turns attraction into something real and lasting. None of this is about becoming someone else. It's about removing the habits that come from insecurity, the overthinking, the overgiving, the fear of losing someone, and replacing them with behaviors that reflect self-respect. Because the truth is, the people who stand out the most aren't the ones trying the hardest to be liked. They're the ones who are the most grounded in who they are. And when you reach that place, something shifts. You stop worrying about whether you're enough for someone else, and you start recognizing who is enough for you. That's when everything changes. Because now, attraction isn't something you chase. It's something you naturally create, simply by being a woman who knows her worth, stands by it, and never abandons it for anyone.